Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean, and it's good to be back on with you. Praise be to God. It is Friday. You have survived the week thus far. Congratulations. We are going to have a great show today. We're going back to our regular programming today. Everybody who gave to our spring campaign so far, thank you for your generosity. It really does mean a lot to us. God bless you and God love you. But today we're going to be talking about a couple of sober stories. One is in Nigeria. The slaughter in Nigeria is really, really, really bad. And it's probably worse right now than it has been even in a while. We're going to have our friend of the program, Edward Clancy, on the team from Aid to the Church in Need to talk about some of the worst killing sprees they've seen in Nigeria. We're also going to catch up on what's going on in Gaza. There's been a rash of people dying there recently because of the Israel-Gaza conflict. And then, of course, we're going to have Dr. Anthony Stine on the team because it's Friday. We're going to be catching up to stories that he's been talking about over at returntotradition.org, like the story out of Australia, the bishop that's now the new bishop, the Archbishop in Brisbane, who allowed an idol in his cathedral. Laymen had to remove it, and they got in trouble with the cops over it. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre, but we're diving into all of these stories and much, much more. And we'll put the links for you over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. So we have a lot to get to today. Praise be to God. We're back to our regular program. So do us a favor, share us with a friend. Let's get started. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and now your saint of the day.
Pope Saint Silverius, pray for us. Silverius was born in Italy in the late 5th century. He was a son of Pope Saint Hormisdas, who had raised a family before he entered religious life as a widower and eventually ascended to the papacy. Silverius was a humble, unassuming man, and was only a subdeacon in Rome when the king of the Ostrogoths, seeking to prevent a papacy linked to Empress Theodora in Constantinople, influenced the election of Silverius as pope in the year of our Lord 536. The hastily consecrated Silverius did his best to uphold Catholic doctrine and the rights of the papacy in the face of constant physical and theological conflict, particularly with the Monophysite heretics, who were greatly favored by the Eastern Empress. The beleaguered pontiff reigned for less than a year before he was taken prisoner by the Byzantine general Belisarius and exiled to the island of Palmarola. There, Silverius was starved to death or otherwise martyred, and many miracles occurred at the shrine that stands there to this day. He is patron of the nearby island of Ponza, and San Silverio is enthusiastically celebrated there and wherever immigrants from the island have settled. For more about this day and others in the Church's calendar, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons. Pope Saint Silverius, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Breitbart is reporting Trump bashes the Wall Street Journal over Iran. President Donald Trump said yesterday the Wall Street Journal has no idea what his thoughts are on Iran after the outlet reported he has authorized attack plans. Citing 3 anonymous sources familiar with the deliberations, the paper reported that Trump had authorized attack plans but was holding off on giving the final order to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. He also noted that he was open to negotiating with Iran, saying it's never too late. The Hill reports famous shipwreck confirmed to be in Rhode Island waters. Australian researchers confirmed the final resting place of 18th century British explorer Captain James Cook's lost ship in Newport Harbor. Originally called the HMS Endeavour, the vessel was later renamed Lord Sandwich and was used as a troop transport and prison ship before it was deliberately sunk in 1778. The approximate location of the wreck is just north of the Goat Island and east of Rose Island, near Newport, Rhode Island. It's a lot of islands. And Ground News reports Israel's Netanyahu says fall of Iran's leadership is not the goal, but could be the result. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said regime change in Iran is not a stated goal, but could be the result of Israel's actions, despite the fact that many believe that that is, in fact, their goal. Netanyahu stated that Israel has the power to remove all of Iran's nuclear facilities, whether the U.S. helps or not. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that the U.S. knows where Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah al-Khomeini, is hiding, and they could drop the bomb, but not for now. While Vladimir Putin stated that the regime change in Iran is unacceptable and emphasized the need for a peaceful resolution. Let's pray that there is a peaceful resolution. World War III is not in anyone's best interest. Those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 23. Jesus said to his disciples, "Lay not up to yourselves treasures on earth, where the rust and moth consume, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up to yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither the rust nor moth doth consume, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where thy treasure is, there is thy heart also. The light of the body is the eye. If the eye be single, the whole body shall be lightsome. But if thy eye be evil, the whole body shall be darksome. If then the light that is in thee be darkness, the darkness itself, how great shall it be?" The Gospel of the Lord. Laus tibi Christi. Father McKeebley, writing back in the 19th century, would say, the Pharisees were slaves not only to vain glory, the inordinate fondness for human applause, but also to avarice, the inordinate love of treasuring up riches. Hence, our Redeemer here cautions his followers against imitating them in this latter vice of avarice also, and dilates chiefly on this subject. To the close of the 6th chapter, having pointed out the mode of giving alms, he here exhorts his followers to the practice of this good work as a necessary accompaniment of prayer and fasting, of which he has been after treating. And having inculcated already the contempt of earthly goods on the grounds of making them the means of showing mercy to our enemies, he inculcates the same for our own sakes, in order to secure greater treasures hereafter. Our Lord does not censure the possession of riches, but the inordinate attachment and desire of possessing them. So it's not having money that's the problem. It's how you relate to your money, what you do with your money that matters most. Just like we must, discipline our bodies. We must fast. We must back up from the table. We must stop just the gluttonous routine of taking in and consuming food and drink, at all times and at all places and just whenever we want. We must regulate that. Same is true for money. And so this is a good, healthy practice to take your money and discipline it by putting it to good use. Use for the glory of God and for the salvation of souls. Use for the care of others, right? It seems to make sense. He goes on, lay not up treasures on earth. If they must amass treasures, they are also to amass them not on earth, where they also are so fleeting and insecure. But lay up not for worthless, ungrateful children or heirs, but for yourselves treasures in heaven. Heaven is the secure and permanent place for treasuring up their riches by depositing them in the bosom of the poor, in alms deeds. They shall thus amass their wealth more securely. In other words, don't be attached to it. Don't be attached to your riches. He goes on, if the mind or intellect be free from evil humors and clouding influences of the passions, the soul will tend to God and be enlightened by his heavenly grace. But if it be clouded by passions, and particularly by avarice or the love of money, against which our Redeemer here cautions us, which is strongly denounced by the wise men, Ecclesiasticus 10:10, and so fearfully depicted by St. Paul in 1 Timothy 6:9, the whole body of our actions, all the other faculties of the soul, shall be infected with this darksome evil. We shall be infected by the material avarice. He goes on, by the eye, St. Augustine and others understand our intentions in our actions. If the intention be simple, upright, and directed to God, it will impart goodness to all our actions, not otherwise evil. If impure, if it have in view the gratification of our passions, particularly the sordid passion of avarice, then all our actions are infected by it. They become darksome and cease to be meritorious with God. In this interpretation, the connection with the preceding is this: if we wish to lay up treasures in heaven, we must do so, having our hearts raised up to God with a pure intention. Let's quote Father Machiavelli, Ora pro nobis. So don't be attached to your money. Don't be attached to this world. Use it to the best of your ability to do the most good you possibly can while it is still under your care and your supervision, right? Don't be attached. It's fleeting. It comes and it goes. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Let's catch up on Gaza and Nigeria all next.
Did you know you can help evangelize simply by using your cell phone? The Station of the Cross is partnering with iCatholic Mobile, America's only Catholic mobile phone company. When you join iCatholic Mobile, a portion of every dollar will support our programming. Plus, you'll enjoy great service with iCatholic Unlimited 5G data, text, and talk. With iCatholic Mobile, you can stay connected with family and friends while also spreading the truth of Jesus Christ with clarity and charity. Join today at iCatholicMobile.com.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Hey, at 30 past the hour, let's talk about the new Archbishop in Brisbane, Australia. Why exactly did he allow a Hindu idol in his cathedral? I mean, 2 laymen had to remove it because he wouldn't remove it, and they got in trouble with the cops. Exactly why is that? We're going to have that conversation with Dr. Anthony Stine from returntotradition.org. at 30 past the hour. Do join us for that if you can. But there are lots of stories that are great concern to us, and I'm sure they are to you as well. The slaughter of Nigerians Christians in Nigeria is what I meant to say, is of great concern. And this is one of the stories we wanted to catch up on with our friend of the show, Edward Clancy from Aid to the Church in Need, churchinneed.org. We'll put a link to it in the show notes as well. Edward, good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Joe. It's good to be with you.
Up to 200 dead in worst killing spree. That's saying a lot when we're talking about Nigeria, because literally tens of thousands have been slaughtered there. So the words worst killing spree, that should give us, our hearts should stop and skip a beat, I would argue, over this. But yet very, very, very little fanfare in the media over the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria continues.
Yeah, unfortunately, the situation in Nigeria is not very good for Christians in general, but in the last year, after averaging about 3,200 killings per year for the last 12 years, Nigeria has seen an increase in the number of killings. A recent report from Nigeria news agency claimed that there were 6,000 Christians killed this year before June.
Before June?
Or before the end of June. Before the end
Wow.
of June. So, I mean, we don't generally report as numbers because generally that's a headline, and what happens with a number is you lose the humanity of the people, the individuals. So I contacted our partner in the region, Father Remigius Yehola in Benue, and I asked him, is this an accurate number? And he said, Ed, truthfully, I can't argue with this number. We don't know the exact number, but there are so many dead who we will never know, that this could be a very factual number. So in that statement from him, I realized that like this recent attack in Yalwada, what is happening to Christians in Nigeria is a silent genocide. That is something that the Bishop Anagbe said earlier this year when he appeared before Congress. The morning of his testimony, he was called from Nigeria by a government official who informed him that they were aware that he was speaking to Congress and they were listening and watching. Those are ominous words for someone. And a bishop once said to us after speaking out, why don't more bishops speak out? And he said, because we all know that just one bullet can end our voice. And Bishop Anagbe that morning, when I asked him, well, Your Excellency, what do you plan to do? He said, I came here to speak for my people. I cannot be afraid now. Or actually, he said, I cannot be more afraid now. And that's the general situation. And these targeted attacks in the last few months have been in Benue. And in fact, they have been in the region, the surrounding counties and territories around Bishop Anagbe's village. Now, this could just be chance that happens to be the region that the Fulani militants are attacking, or it could be an echoing of the warning that Bishop Anagbe received earlier this year before his testimony in Congress. Either way, the numbers of Christians being killed and disaffected is incredible. In this most recent attack, similar to the attack that happened before Easter 2 years ago, it was people who had already been displaced. They had already left their homes, and many of them fear forever. 16 parishes in the Diocese of Makurdi have been lost. Now, when we talk of parish, generally we talk of a church building, maybe rectory, perhaps a school. There, at parishes, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 buildings, all of which are chapels and main churches and places where there's catechesis. So large areas of his diocese are now, sort of without a priest, without any sort of contact from the church. And this after, 50 or 60 years of constant growth in the region. Benue is the highest concentration of Catholics probably anywhere in Africa. It is 95% Christian, 80% Catholic, 6.2 million based on estimated population. Right now, at least a third and maybe up to a half are displaced. It's pretty obvious, just looking at the facts, aside from any statements made or any sort of, declaration of war or jihad, that Christians are being attacked in Benue. And it's a very, very focused attack.
I saw an X post today. I'm going to try to link to it. I got to throw the links into the show notes here so that we can get it onto the website at the top of the hour. But, you mentioned earlier that there's many people we don't know. Well, this post includes the names of those that were slaughtered recently in Benue State. Yeah. These are the actual people. This is their names. And I think it's deserving of us to take just a minute, read these names, and keep them in our prayers. So I'm going to put a link to this in the show notes for Jake to put up at the top of the hour. I also saw this other post from a Friar Emma. I don't know who this person is, but I saw their post. It caught my attention because it was praying for the horrible situation going on in Nigeria at the moment. And they put this picture up. And the picture says, "Stop the killing in Benue in bad leadership." And that caught my attention, not because of the graphic with the blood stain and all of that on it, but rather because of the contrast that we're seeing in the news this week, Edward, with President Donald Trump basically putting out his Truth Social tweet saying, to the Ayatollah Khomeini, "I know where you are right now, and I could drop a bomb. I won't, not yet." There's all of this, alleging that there's regime changes on the menu for Israel and for the United States and Iran, that's the ultimate goal. That's the speculation. I don't know that it is or isn't. I'm just saying that's the speculation. And with Trump tweeting, "Hey, we know where you are, we can take you out," the contrast between that and this government in Nigeria has been slaughtering their own citizens through these Fulani herdsmen now for many years. Thousands and thousands and thousands are dead, and literally no one cares. That couldn't be a greater contrast in my mind. I'm sure it is to you as well.
Yeah, no, leadership has blood on its hands. There's no doubt that there is awareness. There's no doubt that there can be things that should and ought to be done. So the previous administration was Fulani, and during his term, he replaced all of the secondary and tertiary government leaders with people of the Fulani tribe. Now, this is not a statement against Fulanis in general or specifically against any person. But what has happened is there's been this sort of turn the other, it can't be turn the other cheek because it's not a response to violence, but it's turn their back on the obvious situation and not do anything. In a recent attack, prior to the really horrific most recent attack, a police officer was killed defending a location. And the statement from the local magistrate was, you see how the police are putting their lives on the line to protect the people. It was one police officer charged with protecting hundreds of people in an area that is open to violence at any moment. Wow. So the statement shows both the lack of truthfulness of what is going on in government. The list that you put is an initiative that we, Aid to the Church in Need, asked the church to do 3 years ago. So specifically in Benue, in Borno, we asked them, please do your best to give us names, because we have seen too often that the names are never told. You don't know. Now, earlier, 2 years ago, I guess a year and a half ago, when we discussed the violence after Easter, I had shared with you some of the videos that I received. And I remember you saying you couldn't even watch it. And I remember thinking that, not that you were in the harshest of wars, that, you were a Marine, you exposed to some of the trappings of war. This most recent attack, they sent some of the images to us that we cannot show or share. It is worse than before because the attack last time was bloody. This time, the major killing agent was fire. And, those 200 people are just, many of them are not there. I mean, there's no body to mourn. And it is obvious in these attacks that they are going for the most horrible terror that is possible. And
God help them.
The local government, the local people know this, and they cry out. And the problem is the local government is doing almost nothing. And the major problem in Nigeria is that the state cannot really have its own police force of any size or strength. Everything is reliant on the federal government.
If you ever needed a formula for a just war, I would say this is one of them. This is one of them. Yeah. Nothing else is working. Nobody's taking an action. So this would be a formula. We're going to run out of time, Edward. I do want to go to Gaza, though, while we still have a minute or two left with you. I will put links to the Aid to the Church in Needs website article on Nigeria in the show notes today. But I want to ask you about Gaza. It seems like there's a lot of people starving in Gaza right now. And just this week, 140 people, according to some reports, have lost their lives in the melee of all of this. What are you seeing in Gaza?
It is like Dresden, or some of the stories we hear about what has happened to many of those cities in recent wars or past wars. There is almost no food coming in. They estimate that 1% of the need is being fulfilled by these caravans of food. The Christian community, for the most part, has remained well under the conditions. They are without a lot of the necessities of life, but they had gotten a store of food prior to this recent activity. The big problem now is water and energy. There is no sources of clean water and no energy. And obviously the older people, especially those who remain who need medication, there's no supply lines. So Aid to the Church in Need, we've helped them in the past, and we continue to work with the Latin Patriarchate to provide aid when possible. But there needs to be a ceasefire. There needs to be a time when thousands of trucks can come in and supply just basic necessities. We're not even talking about anything more than flour, rice, water, oil, basic medication, hygiene products. They have nothing. Everything around them is grime and dust and dirt and smoke and fire.
And with the Israel-Iran conflict, nobody's talking about what's going on in Gaza right now.
Yeah.
These people are suffering. People are suffering. Let's pray for their relief. Aid to the Church in Need, thank you for all that you do to help provide resources, but also raise awareness for these troubling stories. Edward Clancy, grateful to have you back on the team. God bless you, my friend.
You too. Thank you.
churchinneed.org. You might consider supporting them today. That'd be an amazing thing. We'll put links to them and everything else we talked about in the show notes. But coming up after the break, we're going to have Dr. Anthony Stine back. It's Friday with Stine. Let's talk about what's going on in Brisbane, Australia with their new Archbishop who allowed a Hindu idol in his cathedral. I'm sorry, is that not a deal breaker? You'd think that might be a deal breaker, but I guess not. You get promoted. That's the way it goes. We'll be back 2 minutes from now. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. Just the News reports Trump criticizes Powell for not cutting interest rates. President Donald Trump on Thursday excoriated Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell for keeping interest rates steady despite falling inflation. Inflation has inched lower since January from 3 to 2.4% in May, but increased slightly 0.01% from April to May and has not decreased to what most economists consider the ideal rate of 2%. Trump has repeatedly expressed frustration with Powell's hesitance to lower the interest rates and even suggested that he could fire him at some point, but doesn't. So there you go. LifeSite News reports Canadian Catholic Church installs wire fence after vandals attempt to set fires. Over the past 2 weeks, St. Patrick Church in Calgary saw vandals set fire to the exterior of the church in the spot where the tabernacle is located. Fortunately, the blaze did not take, but there were some exterior damages. The church is equipped with a camera system and local authorities were contacted. However, the parish decided to take matters into their own hands and invested thousands installing a chain link and barbed wire fence around the exterior to ward off future attacks. Since the spring of 2021, over 120 churches, most of them Catholic, have been burned to the ground, vandalized, or defiled in Canada. Catholic Vote reports Trump admin to decide on military action within the next 2 weeks. The Trump administration said Thursday it will decide within the next 2 weeks whether to intervene militarily in the rapidly escalating Israel-Iran conflict as a back-channel diplomacy efforts continue. Let's pray that peace is established very soon. And those are your headline news. It's been an incredible week, to say the least. We've been trying to do some fundraising for our efforts here, while the headlines have been very, very interesting, to say the least. Bishop Strickland's statement on the appointment of Bishop Shane McKinley as Archbishop of Brisbane. I found this very, good, but clear, concise, to the point. You can't support female deacons. Church is taught against that. It's a closed subject, even though they want to debate it still. You can't have pagan idols in your cathedral. And yet both of these rules got broke by Bishop Shane, and he's now promoted to Archbishop. And Dr. Anthony Stine joins us now to discuss it from returntotradition.org. Dr. Stine, good morning. Happy Friday. It's good to have you on the team.
Thanks for having me on again.
Praise be to God. You think these would be deal breakers, both of these things, when you decide to appoint an archbishop, which is a metropolitan see, right? So it's kind of a big deal.
Yes, because not only will he be the pastor of the Shepherd of Souls in his diocese, but the bishops in neighboring dioceses will be looking to him for leadership on issues they may be having that are above and beyond their own competency. So people tend to forget that an archbishop isn't just the bishop of a particularly large diocese. other bishops look to them for sound leadership, helping clarify questions that they'd rather not ask Rome about, all kinds of things. And so this is a big deal, and I was a little shocked at how people were downplaying this appointment, because surely there had to be anybody better than a bishop who openly calls for women's ordination to the diaconate to be available to be an archbishop, a bishop who installed an art piece called The Wands, which is a direct reference, according to the artist page, to tarot. And he put it in his cathedral for Lent. One of the things I dislike about Lent, one thing I dislike about my job during Lent is that every year during Lent, without fail, some of the worst bishops start putting up very pagan artwork in their cathedrals, or some priests start putting, frankly, homoerotic stuff up in their parishes. They just, whatever it is, during Lent, the devil comes out to play. And the people who do this are looking like they're getting promoted. He's the first, but there's also a Bishop Glettler in Austria, who might become the Archbishop of Vienna. If you know anything about Vienna, the Archbishop of Vienna typically becomes the Cardinal Archbishop of Vienna.
Wow.
And the word on the street from within the Chancery office is that he's being prepared for that role, which is shocking, because I can't describe for your audience some of the things the artwork he allowed to be put in his cathedral depicted, because some of it is just so scandalous that it's hard to actually give voice to them. And these are the kinds of things that should have had him sent to a monastery to go live in silence for the rest of his life. But instead, these are men who are at least tolerated in their position, if not getting promoted.
Well, the faithful did complain about this pagan idol that was put into his cathedral there in Australia. They complained about it, but he didn't do anything about it. He didn't remove it. Two laymen, according to the report that I saw on Gloria TV, two laymen took it upon themselves after they tried to get the bishop to remove it. They removed it themselves and got in trouble with the police over the deal. Kind of reminds us a wee bit of the Pachamama scandal out of the Vatican several years ago now. That got thrown into the Tiber by Alexander Trugelwell. So it's along the same lines. So again, I just asked the question here: how is this possible that you get a bishop who's got this kind of a track record publicly gets a promotion? Could it be? Let me ask a hypothetical question here. Could it be that Pope Leo simply was unaware of this because it was like this candidate was already in the works from the previous guy, and he's just, hey, he's just keeping continuity here? How do we explain that?
That is the explanation I've seen to my reporting on this from people in the audience, and I tend to disagree, because before he was Pope Leo XIV, he was Cardinal Robert Prevost, prefect for the dicastery of the bishops. There is nobody in the church who answers to the Pope who should know more about bishops in particular dioceses than he does, especially those who came from his relative neighborhood. Some of the troublesome ones in South America come to mind. And while Australia may seem far-flung, it's been in the news enough with the Cardinal Pell fiasco that they have to know about what is going on in the church in Australia. So I am hesitant to just say, well, he didn't know. Because after a while, you begin to wonder about competency. You're actually accusing the Pope essentially of being incompetent when you say, well, he didn't know the bishops who were supposed to answer to him, that he's going to have ad limina visits, and who answered to him when he was the prefect for the dicastery of the bishops. You're actually undermining his competency by saying that.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Let me just play devil's advocate just to pull on this thread just a wee bit. Let me just say this. What if they just like the papal nuncio in Australia, who is the one who puts forth the names to begin with? What if they just live in a bubble? What if they never check social media posts or what if they never look to see what other Catholics are saying about this, that, or the other potential candidate? What if all they ever look at? What if their sources are only the ones where they call the local chancery or something like that, and they just ask, Monsignor so-and-so, what do you think about this guy? Oh, he's great. And they never actually look into their public statements or their writings or any of that. wouldn't that explain why they wouldn't know about this pagan idol, or why they wouldn't know about him, wanting to ordain females?
There were petitions to get this bishop to resign.
Ooh.
And public statements and messages sent to Rome about him. So somebody knew.
Yeah.
Somebody knew.
Exactly.
And this is why a lot of people are now suddenly losing confidence in Pope Leo already. We'll see. There is, as I mentioned this morning, and a concerted effort, it seems, to turn Pope Leo into their guy, meaning various factions in the church are trying to take the Holy Father and turn him into their pope. Pope Francis II, Pope Leo XIV, the great restorer of traditional masses, and all this other stuff. That's what's happening now. What will happen, we will see, but the appointments kind of point in one direction, not in a good direction. But the real giveaway will be, what does the makeup of the Roman Curia look like? Which the rumors from Rome are that he's going to make his appointments by August, by the end of August. So we don't have to wait terribly long to find out if Cardinal Fernandez gets to stay as dicastery for the prefect for the dicastery of the doctrine of the faith, or if he gets the post I want for him, which is to become the papal nuncio to Antarctica. But that's
preach to the penguins. It'd be amazing. It'd be fantastic. I would love to see. I would love to see Bishop Schneider in the DDF role. That'd be an amazing thing. I think some want him to sort of be in charge of the Ecclesia Dei communities. That would be good too. But position. I think it wouldn't be as good if he was unless he was in charge of the DDF, because he's so solid catechically. I had him on yesterday. He and I talked about it. He put out a grave plea to Pope Leo yesterday, right here on the show, to help relieve the suffering. It's funny because I put out this call to Pope Leo on X to relieve the suffering of those that want more of the rich tradition and piety. And you should have seen that, the blowback I got for doing that. Like, there was a priest well known to us here at the station, a priest who called into question my love for Jesus as a result to asking Pope Leo to relieve the suffering of what Bishop Schneider called the most marginalized Catholics around today, which are the traditional Catholics. I mean, I think that's fascinating, don't you?
I'm not going to ask the name of the priest, but I suspect I know who it is, simply because I've been accused of almost verbatim the same thing. So, but I will just say that Bishop Schneider is, when you're reading his statements and watching his statements that he's making, he's suddenly more active than he's been in 2 years. And it looks like he's taking the very charitable, soft, peaceful approach for correcting what he thinks are problems.
Yeah.
The first thing he did that with was the declaration that Pope Francis is with the Father looking down upon us stuff that we saw from the Pope. Day one, which everybody watching this should be praying for the repose of the soul of Pope Francis.
Amen. We did. We went to his crypt and we prayed there.
Every day. And it's the Catholic thing to do, to pray for the repose of the souls of people who have the recently departed or the dearly departed. But Schneider is taking some risks doing these things because he's become very vocal. And we saw Cardinal Burke recently talk about how he spoke with the Pope about freeing the Latin Mass. We'll see if that happens. There are some who claim to have known Pope Leo before he was the Pope, saying that the chances of that happening are infinitesimally small. So we'll see, because again, there's like a tug of war for the identity of the Pope right now.
Yeah.
Everything is politics. Even in the post-Francis period in the church, everything is politics.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed, right? I don't think we can put that genie back in the bottle. But at the same time, I can also believe that it's probably been this way forever. In some degree or another, I don't really believe in golden eras of history like there was a previous time where everything was perfect or anything. So I think politics has always played a role in the pontificate, and it's just part of the game. It's just part of the game. And maybe, we pray for Leo, of course, and want his success. And We want to see things turn around. And maybe he's playing the long game. Maybe he's playing slow and steady. And maybe in the 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or whatever, we'll be able to look back and say, oh, wow, this was very strategic of him in this way or that. But I got to say, just kind of go back into the original point before we go to break here, that my mind still can't wrap its head around, how do you get a guy and you promote him when he allowed a pagan idol in his cathedral? Okay, he wants to debate on female diaconate ordinations. Well, he's wrong. JP2 thinks he's wrong. It's a settled question that they still want to bring up, but that pales in comparison, in my opinion, to putting a pagan idol in your cathedral. Like, that's a deal breaker. It's a deal breaker, and he gets promoted. I just can't wrap my head around that. It's just a bridge too far for me to process. I just don't understand that. But that music means we're at a break. Dr. Anthony Stine is our guest. ReturnToTradition.org is his website. And we're going to jump into a couple of these other stories he's covered this week. You can check them all out at ReturnToTradition.org. But just 2 minutes from now, we'll be back. And also, we have the after show at the top of the hour. So if you want to be a part of the casual conversation that extends online, then you got to go to thestationofthecross.com/ACT. We'll be right back, though, 2 minutes from now. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. Praise be to God. It is good to be on with you. Don Franco, good morning to you. Says pagan idols and female priestesses actually go together very well. It's obvious that the church is not ours anymore. So that's a nice pairing, is it? I get your point, Don. Thanks for being on the team today. We're going to cover your commentary, whatever you want to say. You can talk about anything we talk about in the program today or anything else in the after show. All you got to do is be on one of the live video streams, which you can find linked up at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. We'll be doing the after show here in about 10 minutes or so. But Dr. Anthony Stine from ReturnToTradition.org is our guest on Fridays. Praise be to Jesus. Good morning again, Dr. Stine. Thanks for being on with us. So we live in very interesting times. I did want to bring up another story, and that was, what's his name? Ben Shapiro meeting Pope Leo. I don't know why that's news. Personally, I'm glad he did. It's great. You met Pope Leo. Fantastic. Wonderful. Good for you. Maybe Pope Leo planted a seed of conversion in your heart. At least I hope so. But why is that news? Why do I care? And how did Ben Shapiro get into a private line? There's 10. I was there. There was 60,000 people, and he cuts the line because he's Ben Shapiro. I don't know why it's that big of a deal.
It's not unreasonable to think that he's got connections that could get him a meeting. That's not unreasonable given his
but why is it
stature.
News?
I think there are people who expect the Pope to invoke, Pius X, some spicier things he had to say about Israel and Jewish people and things, and lay that in the face of Ben Shapiro, which was never going to happen.
Right.
My suspicion is Ben Shapiro brought up Israel to him and the state of things going on there. Beyond that, we don't really know much about what they talked about. At least I don't, because I didn't watch anything Ben Shapiro. I rarely watch Ben Shapiro. So
yeah, I never do anymore.
Yeah, I'm a little burned out on the secular politics. I pay attention enough to not be blindsided by things going on, but I try to limit how much of that I consume anymore, just because it gets so stressful.
Yeah, it does.
Knowing the kinds of people who are making decisions.
But I just found it interesting because it's being reported as news. It's not. The Pope meets all kinds of people. I don't have a problem with him meeting Ben Shapiro. Good for him. It's great. But it's not news. He's the vicar of Christ on earth. It shouldn't surprise us that he meets with anybody, really. Honestly, he should be meeting with all kinds of people. But it boggles the mind that sort of the news cycle that we get when it comes to the Vatican or the Pope or whatever. Just they shove these things down these rabbit holes, and I'm just trying to understand what is that supposed to actually mean. I do want to get to another story you covered today, and that was with Father Jimmy Martin back in the news. What's the story here?
He appeared on Good Morning America He's the go-to for the mainstream secular media.
I'm glad it's him and not me.
And you would probably do better at representing the actual Catholic position on some of these more nuanced, needed, hot-button topics. So, Good Morning America ran a bit yesterday about the hopes that the LGBTQ AAIP plus # group has when it comes to the new pope. And they began by giving you statistics, the kinds of statistics the world loves and Catholics who are serious about their faith don't. For instance, 75% of Catholics in the United States think society needs to be accepting of homosexual lifestyles. That's 75% of Catholics. And by extension, you can deduce what that means for church teaching. How many Catholics actually hold to church teaching? Now, when you break down that number, 75%, and you compare it to things like how many people go to Mass on a regular basis, you start seeing that in the U.S., it's like 13% of people go to Mass a couple of times a month, let alone every week.
Right.
And so, again, there are a lot of people who call themselves Catholic who haven't darkened a door of a parish since Ash Wednesday or Easter, or maybe even in a few years. And that's never brought up in this. But then they asked Father James Martin about the hope Catholics have on the sexual sins thing with the Pope. And, well, he's a great listener, yada, 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 that kind of thing. But they also pulled on the heartstrings by making sure to show you interviews with self-professed gay Catholics. Because the church's teaching on this is too rigid, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to be brought up to date. That kind of thing. And interestingly enough, if you look at Pope Leo as Cardinal Robert Prevost and Bishop Robert Prevost's personal statements he's made about this in the past, he's been all over the board. Back in like 2012, he said that the LGBTQ ideology was destroying Christian civilization. Something to that effect.
Wow.
He's not wrong about that assessment.
Yeah.
But then just a few years ago, after Amoris Laetitia, he repeated Pope Francis's "all are welcome, 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 welcome," kind of the ambiguous statements that don't usually come with "everyone is welcome if they repent," which is the usual Catholic position on really any sin. It's not just we're not just picking on that.
That only
one
applies to me, Dr. Stine. That only applies to me. It doesn't apply to everybody else.
No, I mean, the old adage of how short most confession lines are, how long the lines are for receiving the Eucharist, which is not to say that anybody,
parish.
You can tell anybody in line
to
hasn't
get
been
to
to
confession at my parish. My parish, the lines of confession are very long, and it's like, wow, can you sinners come on a different day, please?
It's also not universally true anyway. I mean, the ordinary form parish, which is kind of a middle of the road parish, just a couple of miles from my house, you go to confession there on a Saturday night. If you're not early, you can be 20th in line. Now, that having been said, a 20-person line on a Saturday when you've got 600 people in a parish going to Mass on a regular basis. That's a
whole nother show. We could talk about that for another hour. I've said this repeatedly. I used to go to a very large parish nearby. It's a mega parish. There's probably 50,000 Catholics that are assigned to that parish. And like on the books at the parish. And they do confessions. At the time, they were doing confessions on Saturday for an hour and a half. Like twice I had waited in line for like 2 hours, only to be cut off. The next guy to go in, because you be cut off because Father's got to leave. And my heart breaks for Father because it's like he's a busy guy, but man, that's frustrating.
Good. It does sound good. But if you factor in the Catholics who are probably going to confession during their work week because there's a parish that's offers confession on their lunch break or whatever, you factor in it sounds good until you really start thinking about the head count of your parish.
Exactly.
Because for a modern parish that's a decent size to actually be offering confessions in a way that would mean that most Catholics are making use of the sacrament on a regular basis would mean you would need confession available every single day for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. How many parishes do we know about, by the way, where confessions by appointment, no regular confession times? We're not talking the odd monastery that is in your town, right? Your town grew up around the monastery and the monks there are happy to offer confession and Mass and things. But beyond that, now we're not talking them. We're talking normal parishes where people are actual members of the parish and receive the sacraments. It becomes distressing when you think about the numbers.
Yeah, and
Again,
especially going back to what you said, and going back to what you said about Jimmy Martin, sort of pointing out, making it more clear. Maybe he didn't intend this, but it's become more clear now how few Catholics actually hold to what the church is teaching on various issues: mass attendance, confession. Then of course the teachings on sexual ethics and morality. Clearly, there is a huge disconnect between what Holy Mother Church is teaching and proclaiming and holding to, and the body of Christ, what they are rising to the occasion to, or failing to rise to the occasion to. And Jimmy Martin gets to be the voice of that in public square. That is a recipe for disaster right there. That music means we're out of time on the radio side. Hey, let's continue this in the after show. So if you want to join us and you want to chime in, you can do so. All you got to do is be on one of the live video feeds to do it. You can be on Facebook, you can be on X, you can be on Twitter. Actually, you can't be on our X and Twitter, the same thing, first of all. Second of all, they don't let you comment there unless you're like some blue check mark. I think it's the only way. So don't go to that one. Go to Facebook, go to Rumble, go to YouTube, and be a part of the conversation there. We'll be hanging out with you. Dr. Stine, I think Edward Clancy's still on, plus Trad Jack Burden tweet in tow. He's always got an opinion, so we'll get yours as well. We'll see you back here Monday morning. God love you. God bless you. Hi, Joe McLean here, host of A Catholic Take. Thank you to everyone who has generously donated to our spring appeal. To reach our goal, we need the support of every listener. And right now, all gifts are being matched dollar for dollar. Your support will enable us to continue giving you the information and inspiration that you need every morning. If possible, please consider becoming a monthly, ongoing donor. Your monthly pledge will be matched dollar for dollar, and we'll send you a beautiful St. Benedict Decade Rosary just as a token of our appreciation. To help us reach our goal, call 877-711-8500 or visit thestationofthecross.com. You can even donate through our iCatholic Radio mobile app, or just return the envelope from our recent mailing. Whether you make a monthly pledge or even a one-time gift, we are so very grateful for your generosity. Thank you, and may God bless you and your family.
And we're back. Welcome to the after show, everyone, and happy Friday.
Good morning.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. How long till I get a hate email that says you talked bad about Israel again today? T minus 10, 9. It's coming. I can feel it in my inbox already. I'm sure it's going to happen.
I got a comment in my video just like 2 minutes ago that said, "It's not Catholic to criticize everything. You need to stop." Okay.
Okay. Tim H says, if Pope Leo met with Joe McLean, would it be news? Joe Who is my favorite response.
Yeah, Joe Who.
That's great. That would be the response. Like, why would anybody care besides me and my wife and kids, to be honest? Maybe a few of you might care because it was cool. But other than that, like, literally no one would care. And I don't really think anybody should care if that would happen personally. It's like, great, Ben Shapiro met Pope Leo. Wonderful. Why is that a thing? Like, what are we talking about? Like, there's so many more important things in the world.
Like, if Pope Leo had a private audience with Ben Shapiro, I'd be like, what? He's getting that? But it's like, there's like so many people get in that line, as long as you have a connection or, just sign up at the right time. And, you can get into that line. Yeah.
I was just there. I have no idea how to get in that line. I mean, so somebody's got to know how to get in that line. Clearly he knows the people who do, and good for him, good for him, whatever, but anyway, I just thought I was kind of annoyed just by this whole Ben Shapiro thing on X in particular. It's like, I seriously don't care whether or not he meets Pope Leo. Why is this a thing? Anyway, we didn't even get into welcome back, Edward Clancy, by the way. Welcome to the mosh pit of ideas is the after show. So it could go in all kinds of places. Rob, our good friend Flying Tigers, good morning to you. There are a lot of Karens on YouTube. There's a lot of Karens in my inbox. There's a lot of Karens in my Twitter feed. In YouTube probably as well, I guess. I find there's less in our chat box than in other places. But Rob, good to see you here, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. He's got his book on Malachi Martin coming out. I'm super excited to talk about that soon. So we'll be doing that. Praise be to Jesus. Good morning, Patty B. Christopher, good morning. Helen Grace. Truth, Life, and Fishing is back. Good morning, Alberto. Walter, good morning to you. Thanks for being on the team today, everybody. I see Nelson Piers. Jane, good morning to you. Trad Jack Burton, Tweet and Toe. Paul, our good friend from Buffalo. Eileen, good morning. Mateus from sunny California, good morning. Thanks for being on with us today. Becky Hansen, good morning to you. What's normal, by the way? Anna, good morning to you. You're going on a trip. Where are you going? Someplace fun, I hope. Eileen, good morning. Rebecca, good morning. Mike K, good morning. James 16897, good morning. Alejandro Rodriguez, good morning. Damon, good morning. Sharon, T Storm, good morning, everybody. By the way, speaking of trips, I think I'm going to take the family up to St. Louis, Missouri in August for the feast, the celebration of King St. Louis IX. That sounds like a fun, good time for Catholic families. So I think we're going to go up there. We'll have to do the show from the road to pull it off. Next week, I'll be in San Antonio for a night. We're going to do the show live from Sanctus Ranch on the 26th. We're going to do a rosary rally with Michael Hitchborn on the 25th outside of San Fernando Cathedral. That ought to be fun. Ron, good morning to you. Ursula, good morning, Ursula. It's good to see you, Ursula. Thanks for hanging out with us in the chat box today. We got to get you back on the team. Joe, is Pope Leo honeymoon over? Depends on who you ask, Truth, Life, and Fishing. I know you're asking me, but I think the answer is it depends on who you ask. I asked Bishop Schneider yesterday, basically kind of the same question, not quite worded that way, but essentially the same. And he was careful in his response. He was like, listen, I don't know how the guy works or what his timing is going to be. I just know that these are the things that are important. So it seems to me that most people, I haven't given you my answer, obviously, but most people want to give Leo a chance. We want Leo to succeed. We want him to be amazing. But when he keeps promoting people like the Brisbane guy, we just don't know. It doesn't make sense. But maybe it's because we're too close to the weeds to see the grander picture. I mean, I'm trying to be fair. I'm just trying to be fair. But our resident in-house Leo splainer is definitely Tragic Burton. So what do you say, Jake? Do you think the Leo honeymoon is over, or are we still feeling good about it?
It's really not our place to say whether the honeymoon with the Pope is over. There's no honeymoon with the Pope. He's the Pope.
He's the Pope.
Like, I mean, it was the same with Francis. Pope Francis was doing a lot. Yeah, I'm serious. Pope Francis did a lot of things with which I had a problem.
I thought you were going to say with
he was
which
still
you
the
liked.
Pope. It was just, it's...
Surely he did some things you liked.
Yeah, he did a couple things I liked. Remember that interview where they flat out asked him about female ordination? And he just said, no. And that's the thing. That's the thing. Is like, it's a sign of lack of trust.
We like that.
It's a sign of lack of trust to just, to keep worrying. Like we need to be at peace. And constantly, freaking out over the latest news or appointments, is something that disturbs peace. And we're not going to be good at being Catholics if we're constantly worried about how good others are at being Catholics. That's really that's
true.
The point
I would agree with you.
And it's not to say that you. It's not to say that you should ignore. It's not. Let me finish. It's not to say that you should ignore the news or that you should not report on things. But when getting wrapped up in speculation and reading intentions just isn't wise. It's one thing to report on what happens. Yeah, that's like speculation is just.
I can't read the man's heart or his mind, so all I have is speculation, which I'm happy to admit that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot I think I could let go. There's a lot I think I could just ignore and keep moving. And he said that. Okay, whatever, just keep moving. I was that way with Francis a lot too. I didn't bite on everything Francis ever did or said or whatever. But I'm sorry, but you got a guy who keeps an idol in his cathedral. I don't know what his intentions were when he did that, and I don't care. It's unacceptable. That's the bottom line. It's unacceptable. Having an idol in your cathedral is unacceptable, no matter what your intentions were. So, that's something that can't be passed, and that's the point. I I think my approach is there's times when you're like, I'm sorry, Marco Rupnik can't hang out anymore. It's unacceptable for him to continue on. It's just not an acceptable thing, regardless of any other factor in the deal. And I think that's kind of where we're at with Leo. I think there's great potential, and I pray for his success and want him to be great, no matter if there's hiccups along the way. I don't think he's going to be perfect, neither am I. So, there's going to be something.
Well, that's the thing is, like, if we want to talk about things to criticize, like, again, plenty to criticize over the last 12 years. I had things to criticize about Pope Benedict. I had things to criticize about Pope St. John Paul II. I had things to criticize about
JP2 the
is he
Great?
saint yet? Saint
Come
John
on.
Paul I, who I've never met a single person with a devotion to
canonized
him.
yet?
I'm not sure. Is he just a blessed? I can't remember. And then
I've never heard of a person with a devotion to Paul VI either. So.
yeah, I have things to criticize about Pope St. Pius X. I have several
stop.
big things to criticize.
Okay, that's it. Jake,
about
turn your
Pope-
mic up. That's
about
it. We're not,
Pope St. Pius
we
X.
won't be
Like,
tolerating any criticisms.
I'm just saying.
Smoke a pack a day, Pius X. Okay?
I have plenty of things I could criticize my dad for, but I'm not going to air them in
Don't do
public.
that.
Like,
God rest your father's soul.
exactly. Like, that's the thing.
Debbie Furtado, good morning to you. Okay, I tell you what, one of the things I did like, and this is, Ed, we're going to get you back into the conversation now. It's your time to be on the hot seat. One of the things I did like about Francis was his willingness to speak out about the suffering in Gaza in particular, right? Because the mere mention of any slight criticism of Israel, I get hammered. Could you imagine being the Pope? I mean, it's got to be a tsunami of hammering. For me, it's just a little tiny little, carpenter nail or whatever. And he's probably getting the tsunami of hammering. So regardless of all of my criticisms of Francis, he actually said the quiet part out loud, right?
Yeah, actually, and we're hopeful also Pope Leo. He did mention in his Angelus last week about the killings in Benway. And that's an area, again, where the church has been very lukewarm at best. And I wonder if it needs the horrific nature of things for them to speak up. I'm not sure. But I did notice, again, how bravery has repercussions, that Bishop Anagbe speaking up, that after that, Archbishop Kaigama, who is essentially the head of the church in Nigeria, literally said at one point it might come time for Christians to take up arms to protect themselves.
I think that point's come and gone.
But the fact that the church is saying it is quite a different story. I mean, they're not. And
what more do you need? I guess we hammer this every time we talk about it, and I just can't help myself. It just doesn't. Again, some things don't make any sense to me. Like, this is the recipe for a just war. Like, yeah. I would argue Iran and Israel's conflict isn't. I would argue that Israel and Gaza's conflict isn't an argument for just war. But I argue that this is an argument for just war. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, and I think that the difference now between now and 100 years ago is 100 years ago you had a society that, in a sense, was very much aligned with the understanding of a just war. I'm not saying completely. I'm sure there was so many that were bad, but the society was aligned so the church could take a more neutral position. Now it's opportunity for the church to take a leadership position, to literally say that governments must protect vulnerable Christians, that they must do these things. Not they should, they might, right. They should, they have to. And I think, an interesting thing what Dr. Stine had said earlier, and I was laughing, is when he said, it's not Catholic to complain. I would invite anybody who's ever volunteered in any church function to go to it without hearing hundreds, if not thousands, of complaints. It is very Catholic to complain.
We do it all the time. What do you mean? Yeah,
exactly. And we don't have a church of democracy, but we certainly have a church of people who can voice themselves and say things. And this is where, the Vox Populi, the movement from the masses has to start speaking up and call upon the priest and the bishops to do something, not to just sit in their ivory towers and, give us some pontification about justice and moral philosophy that might be so esoteric that no one understands what they mean. Be frank, be straight, be truthful. And I think there will be rewards in the growth of the church. Michael Anadi was a young man in the seminary in Nigeria. He was taken captive by Muslim militants. He was warned 4 or 5 times after being beaten that he should not continue his Catholic ways, praying before meals, speaking to the people around him about, their salvation and their sinfulness and following Islam. And he was warned that if you say it one more time, that you're going to be executed. And what happened? He said, I will pray for you because one day you're going to face judgment. The man shot him in the head.
Isn't that something?
And a month later, when they captured this man, what did the guy who shot him say? I've never met a braver man in my life.
Yeah.
His absolute conviction. And today in Nigeria, there are young men in the seminary who say their reason for being a priest or going towards the priesthood is Michael Anadi.
Wow.
And the priest
how is he not saint? How is he not a saint?
He will be. He will be. The cause for his canonization, his martyrdom is moving forward very quickly. The bishops in Nigeria are very much in favor of it. And I think this is an area, just like with the election of Pope Leo, you will see the strength of the African church, that you will see their ability to, similar to Archbishop Kagama, speaking out boldly. And obviously Cardinal Arinze has been doing it for years. I think we will see that, not too far in the future, within the next 10 years, which is in church time quick.
Yeah, that it would be. All right, Dr. Stine, what do you say? Is the Leo honeymoon over?
For a lot of people, it never began. That's just the truth about it. I think most Catholics are still waiting and seeing on what they're going to think. It's interesting to note that. Yeah, I generally put myself in that category too, even though I tend to be a little more open about not liking much of what I see. But that's just because I have a hard time of playing nice when it comes to
you don't play nice with others,
in the church. Nah, well, I can get along with almost anybody, but I also have a hard time just keeping my mouth shut when I see something that deep down inside I know is wrong, like putting a pagan idol in your cathedral.
Yeah,
there's literally no justification. The pagan idols that are in the Vatican, you ever notice that all of them now have like crosses placed on top of them as a sign of triumph? The obelisk. That obelisk is my favorite one because Protestants are like, why do you have a pagan obelisk at Vatican?
We conquered it.
Have you ever looked at it? This belongs to us now. We're putting a cross on. This is for
There's
Christ.
Actually a panel. There's panels on all 4 sides of that obelisk. And one of the panels specifically states that there's a cross on top because paganism has been conquered. And it's interesting because when you go into the catacombs beneath St. Peter's high altar and you go into on the Scavi tour, they will show you some of these cryptic images in these burial vaults where Christians used pagan images and then changed them to Christianize them, so that they were subtly and cryptically communicating to each other who was Christian and who weren't. So they were stealing Apollos and making him Christian just for this purpose. So this goes back to the 1st century. This is something that the Christians have always been doing is defeating paganism and conquering it, and crowning their conquering over it. And going back to your point, there's no excuse to put a pagan idol in your cathedral. It's just like that's just not. It's just not acceptable under any. I don't even know what the intention was, and I don't even care. It's just not acceptable. It can't be tolerated, in my opinion. So hats off to the 2 guys that took it out. Go ahead.
Sure. So we get to see at Aids to the Church in Need, we get to see the effects of this, what's happening on the margins and the fringes in the church. Hinduism is the next great battle, if it already isn't a great battle. The amount of effort being placed upon the Christian community in India to crush it, to segment it and separate it, is growing. It is an effect, and many of us see Hindus as kind, as compassionate, as sort of these nice people who do these strange poses and exercises.
Those are the Hindus who live in the United States.
Oh, right, but also you will see the number of yoga centers growing, and that's an effort similar to the Confucius centers to inject Hindu culture into our culture, and it is not done just because there's an economic opportunity. They spend lavishly on these these Hindu, and they use all the trappings. It's not isolated to just exercises. In fact, they will use the artwork, they will use the sounds, they will use the mantras. Now some yoga specialists will tell you have to find your own mantra, but oftentimes you don't find your own mantra. It is injected into you, it's given to you. And then, of course, terrible. Even with the poses and the way you move. Yeah. I mean, I have spoken to Indian priests, one of them now is a bishop, and they said that these are all designed purposely to open yourself spiritually to this other world. And this pagan world, this pagan culture is purposeful. And I know of a young woman who converted because of it. And she said because she never felt so free, and that she started doing these yoga poses and everything came more and more natural to her so quickly. Like it was unworldly in how it happened. And it was like, oh my goodness, that sounds like a possession or at least, some manifestation of demons. And, what do you do other than pray for that person and continue to talk to her? I know, one of the things that my dear late friend used to say is she always carried around holy salt and holy water. And every time she'd go in front of one of these yoga places, she would drop some salt and sprinkle some water near the entrance.
That's brilliant.
And we need to start doing stuff like this, like really speaking out against what's happening.
Amen. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I've had that conversation before on the show. I've had various guests talk about the occultism in yoga, and always someone pushes back on that. It's just stretching. It's just breathing. Oh, no, it's not. It's way worse than that.
Reiki, all of it. Yeah, it is demonic.
It's terrible. Hey, Kevin Jabber, good morning to you, Kevin. Thank you for being on the team today. You're amazing, Kevin. Thank you. Says, regarding Shapiro and Leo XIV, in November 2023, the phrase Christ is King surged into the public consciousness in a heated exchange between Candace Owens and conservative Jewish commentator Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I remember when saying Christ is King became anti-Semitic. That wasn't that long ago.
I'm wondering if Ben complained to Pope Leo about Pope Leo in his first address after his election, besides the balcony thing, saying that we are God's chosen people. We Christians, we Catholics are God's chosen people.
Wouldn't that have been fun to be the fly on the wall in this conversation?
Yeah, I wonder if that was.
That could have made headlines, and I'd have been all right with that one.
That would have been
okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pope and Ben Shapiro get into a heated debate in front of St. Peter's. Now that's news. That's news.
That's news, and I'm interested.
Glad handing and the Pope handing out a medal is not
so fun.
I just would need footage of Ben Shapiro saying, "Facts don't care about your feelings."
Yeah.
Pope. That's what I
need. I'm waiting for Jordan Peterson to get in that audience line.
Probably. I guess everybody's lining up now.
Listen, Your Holiness.
I'm waiting for people to wake up about Jordan Peterson and to stop paying attention to anything he has to say about religion.
Yeah, right.
Oh boy! But we should pray for him.
Yeah. Yeah, we should. But the thing is, even if he converts, I don't think his commentary is going to be that interesting. Even if he does convert to the Catholic faith, I don't think he's going to have anything that interesting to say.
Yeah. Listen, like Ben Shapiro or Jordan. Listen, God love them. I don't hate either one of them. I'm just not interested in either one either. Like Jordan Peterson. Whenever I listen to Jordan talk, my eyes roll back in the head. It's like I don't even think he knows what he's talking about, to be honest with you.
Too many words.
It just he found a thesaurus and he went to town on it. Good for you, pal. I mean, I'm glad he stood up against the crazy in Canada when he did back in the day. Good for you. That was useful and good. But ever since, it's been gobbledygook. And I just don't understand the attraction.
I like, when it comes to those people, I like when Ben Shapiro talks about how bad some movie is, or the inane stuff that they post to his YouTube channel on the weekends, because it's just harmless, generally right-ordered commentary on why some woke movie is trash.
It's Conclave. His commentary in Conclave was good.
I didn't see that. Did he basically? Oh no, I did. He basically said every Christian out there should be offended at that movie. And yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was alarmed by the number of bishops who admitted after the papal conclave that they watched that movie to try to get an understanding of like how conclaves work. And like, guys, you don't say that out loud. Like, that's the wrong approach. And you certainly don't say that out loud, because you'd think the Camerlengo would get them all together like within a day of the passing of Pope Francis, say, hey, this is what a conclave is like, and you should prepare yourself for it after the mourning period. But no, they instead went to Hollywood to watch a movie, to learn about real life. The most realist thing any of them are going to do with their lives, which is help select the Holy Father. That was extraordinarily alarming when I saw that.
Yeah, very much so.
And Ben Shapiro decided to wear his kippah, his yarmulke, for political reasons. He didn't decide it for religious reasons. He made it a concrete statement that he wanted to express his Jewishness in American culture and his alliance with Israel. So it's, again, for all that he says, his motivations, again, I don't want to sound terrible, but similar to Islam, is much more political than it is religious.
Yep.
And that's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, somebody got upset because I think I saw an X like, why didn't Ben Shapiro kiss his ring or whatever? Like, he's Jewish, he's not Catholic, so I guess he wouldn't be thinking about that. But I mean, I guess there's some courtesy to the office that can be expressed regardless of your religious affiliation. I would argue, when you're in front of the Vicar of Christ, the Pope, there should be some courtesy towards that office in the same way you might express courtesy to the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of Israel or any other leader.
Only even more so.
Yeah, maybe even more so. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, these are all choices that he's making there. So, we don't know what they're talking about, though.
I mean, the fact that he goes there, and he's wearing that, like, that's a certain look. But the thing is, like, if Ben Shapiro was interested in any way in like advising the Pope or anything like that, like, there's not much time to do that in a meeting. Yeah.
You get a minute.
Can we get a lip reader on the show to do that one and the Cardinal Marx conversation where they're yelling at each other or whatever?
Yes. I want to see the Cardinal Marx.
Yeah, I want to see the Cardinal Marx. But the look that Pope Leo gives him when he walks away is like, because Pope Leo it instantly switches back to smiling for the next person, and there's a total shift in his face when you see it. Like he just looks at Cardinal Marx and then like switches back to positivity for the next one. It's really
kill.
And it's exchanges like that give me pause on thinking he's Francis II. Because Reinhard Cardinal Marx is one of the most destructive forces in the church today. Even after he's retired, he is still one of the most destructive forces in the church today.
This is the same philosophy Jake takes on Carlo Acutis. If what's his name hates him,
Grillo hates. I'm all in on Carlo now.
Right? No. I have a video. I'm debating on putting it up tomorrow instead of Monday, like I have it recorded for. But I was indifferent to Carlo Acutis because he's a post-conciliar canonization. And after I saw that, I'm like, nope. If you've got that guy as your enemy, I'm in your wheelhouse.
Let's go. He's gonna watch him intercede for all kinds of stuff now.
I won't be doing the devotional stuff, but I will defend this canonization now. Only on the grounds that
Exactly.
Because if you look at the stuff he said, he accused him of having an outdated Eucharistic theology that focused on all the wrong things.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the community aspect of the
It was
Eucharist.
outrageous. Like, it was just like, he was saying the quiet part out loud as far as modernists are concerned.
And remember, Grillo, for those who don't know, he was one of the biggest lay theologians out there who is rumored to have written Traditionis Custodes.
Yep.
Right.
So if he's the guy who doesn't like Carlo Acutis, then okay.
The friend of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
We need to start doing Carlo novenas for the
Carlo novenas.
Overturning of Traditionis Custodes.
I will have to get a guest on to talk about Carlo Acutis now. I haven't done it till now, so maybe now I need to. We'll see. Alaric says Leo is definitely not Francis. That doesn't mean he's a pious, but he's not a Francis. Well, I mean, praise be to God, Leo is going to be who he is. We're going to have to wait and see how it all goes. He's the Vicar of Christ on earth, whether I like him or not is kind of beside the point. But we are certainly going to watch with a careful eye. Gregory says, I like Groucho Marx, not Cardinal Marx. Can we get the video clip that you're talking about of Leo looking at and getting into with Marx? That'd be great if we did. Sci-Fi, good morning to you. Gogwensa61, good morning to you. Rosie, good morning. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Praise be to Jesus. Christopher's on the team as well. Anna, good morning. Ben Shapiro changed. Whiny and arrogant. I'm sorry, but I can no longer follow him. I don't really listen to anything he comments on. Just on the rare occasion do I stop for anything. And the last time I saw anything was his commentary on Conclave, which, as we said, I thought was good. I thought he was spot on. And I might have even shared that commentary, if I remember correctly.
Well, he's moving into Shapiro because the Daily Wire is probably imploding. And I think he is trying to create more Ben Shapiro brand recognition now.
You think they're not going to last?
I had this same observation actually, that the only thing keeping the Daily Wire going appears to be Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh. They're the most popular people there now. And have you noticed that in the last couple of months, suddenly they've been much more critical of Israel than anybody at the Daily Wire had been in the 10 years that operation has existed? It's almost as if they recognize they have a lot of leverage there, that they are almost untouchable, because without their two most popular people, they're done. Nobody will watch. Not enough people will watch Ben Shapiro, other than maybe as an independent podcaster to keep himself going. The Daily Wire will have nothing without those two.
Yeah. I got the video clip of Leo and Marx. Can I put this on screen for a second? I'm going to go full on this. Hold on. Why is this not showing? There we go. There's no audio.
Yep.
And it's dark. Yeah.
It's going to switch in a second, I think, to the side view.
Yeah. They're obviously talking about something. Like, you can tell.
I'll have to ask my friends in Vatican Media if that camera angle in full quality exists. Okay. I'll see maybe.
And yeah.
Oh, that wasn't that bad. It wasn't like, let's look at this.
It's just the hand gestures thing is weird. I'd like to know if this is just just the way that he talks normally, is with a lot of hand gestures, Italian style.
No, like all he's doing, he's not. This is no anger. Look at his face. He's trying to listen. Mm-hmm. He's trying to understand. The look on his face is understanding. Like, what are you saying? Okay. Yeah.
Just it's the little look as he walks away. This one. This one here. That little glance.
Yeah, I like Guinness. Guinness is great. Sure. Yeah. Tall draft. Give me a pint.
No German's drinking Guinness. No German is drinking Guinness. No German is drinking Guinness.
Are you saying Germans don't love good beer?
No German is drinking Guinness.
Did you just admit that Germans don't love good beer? Of course
he is drinking Hofbräu.
Clearly.
He is drinking Hofbräu.
Gentlemen, this is wine territory. They're not talking about beer in Rome.
German and wine. Yeah, they do make it, but it's not great. I don't know. I didn't see anger on his face. I mean, look, I paused it at a great spot where Marx is walking away and Leo is looking elsewhere, and there's like a almost an annoyed look on his face right now, but not. I would say it's not anger. It's not frustration.
You're retired. Leave me alone.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wanted more out of that video, if I'm being honest. I wanted the look of
that. Well, did you show it to the end and you see the little the look back, that Pope Leo gives him, and then he switches back to smiling.
Let me keep playing it then. Oh, I saw that look back. There is a look back.
And then watch the way. I'll compare it to the way that his face switches back to smiling for the next guest.
Can we just get the lip reader, whoever the lip reader was, who told us what Obama and Trump talked about a couple of months ago, or a couple of months before he was president? Because a lot of people made a big deal out of it, and then I watched an overlay of what was reported to have said over what they were said over their mouth movements, and it fit almost perfectly. I'd like to get that lip reader to chime in. That would be.
I don't know any lip readers, unfortunately. If you know one, let me know.
It seems like a rather niche. It sounds like a niche employment opportunity.
Yeah, the question is, was Marx speaking in English or Italian or German?
Yeah.
We'd have to know that, wouldn't we?
Italian, I would say Italian or English.
Yeah.
Probably Italian. Probably
Would
Italian.
the lip reader be able to
English.
determine that just by watching? I mean, are they that skilled? I don't even know.
Well, there's a guy
the,
that's very good who's from Spain, and he does a lot of the Latin languages. So
interesting. Well, that would be fascinating to know what they talked about. But it just seemed to me like Marx was getting into something, and Leo was kind of annoyed. Like, I don't really want to be dealing with this right now. Like, I'm trying to meet people. Like, what are you doing? I'm just, whatever. Like, can we move on, please? I'm trying to like say hello to the people. You know, Ben Shapiro's in line. Marx, can you move along? Got to get to Ben.
Got to deal with the real VIPs.
We got to talk about Christ
real
is
VIPs.
King. Christ is King.
Real VIPs.
Maybe he said it's not Catholic. It's not Catholic to complain.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That would be a great meme right there. It's not Catholic to complain. Also, don't see Joe McClain's content ever. Darren says Guinness is good introduction to the world of stouts. Samuel Smith's oatmeal stout.
There
is a
you
good
go.
next step.
Now we're talking. Samuel Smith. Samuel Smith is where it's at.
Triggering tragic Burton there, Darren.
But I couldn't name a single one because it's been a year since I've had beer. Simply because this ultra low carb thing I do doesn't exactly work with any kind of alcohol.
Samuel Smith is where it's at. But actually, that is a point about Pope Leo's approach, is that he's not complaining very much. He's making it not Catholic to complain again. Instead of when he meets with priests or talks to bishops about priests, you know, he's not nagging and complaining and criticizing and saying that they're all, you know, obsessed with lace or they're lazy or whatever. He's saying, you know, he's telling bishops to love and support and work with their brother priests and take care of them. He's telling priests that you're wonderful and your calling is to, you know, spread the gospel. And, you know, it's amazing what a difference that makes from coming out and getting nagged every time.
I did like what he said to the Italians by basically saying your first duty is to teach the faith. Like that's needs to be said. Praise be to God. The bishops do need to hear that. So that was good. Hey, by the way, John Andrew Sustancia. How do I say that last name? I have no idea. Good morning, fellas. Blessed Justo Takayama of Japan, pray for us. Rheingold beer, old school, he says. Rheingold beer.
That sounds familiar.
I've never
had it.
It
was made in Brooklyn. Rheingold was made in Brooklyn, yeah. Here, it's like 6 blocks where I work. The old brewery.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah, it's like super high-end apartments now. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not being made there anymore. Was there like a German community? I mean, Rhine. I'm thinking the River Rhine is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, there were 6 breweries in Brooklyn. All of them were from German families.
Mm-hmm. No kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Rheingold Brewery.
Yeah, we had a large German community in the like 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they've moved, but it used to be those German pockets here.
No kidding. You were born and raised there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a Brooklyn born, bred, had an interesting New World experience yesterday when I was coming home from buying cream because like Dr. Stine, I go low carb. And there was this young man in the vestibule of our house and I looked at him and I said, can I help you? And he said, oh, I'm here to meet someone. And I said, who? What? And he says, oh yeah, I'm here to meet someone. And I said, who? And he says, I don't know. I don't know his name. And I looked at him and he looked at my phone and he says, it's a hookup app.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah. And I just said, you're in the wrong place.
You're in the wrong place and you got about a half a second.
And we literally have a sign that says, this is a Catholic home and an image of the Sacred Heart in the vestibule.
And it didn't stop him though.
So many things. So many opportunities. No, but he was very nervous, very anxious, and I thought about like in that second, how do you evangelize someone other than just get out of my house?
Yeah, that'd be my first reaction too. I'm sorry, hookup what? Right. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Did you see the Texas flag outside by chance? Okay, this is the embassy of Texas, which means we're armed to the teeth. Get out while you still can. Oh, yeah. My heavens. Like, oh.
Yeah, I have a gun and a shovel.
That's very Brooklyn of you, by the way. That was so Brooklyn. A gun and a shovel. Yeah. Forget about it. Hey, Eileen, you were born in Hell's Kitchen. Oh, no kidding. In New York City. Praise be to God. Flying Tigers Rob, our good friend, he was born in Brooklyn. Lots of Brooklyn fans here today. We had some folks on our pilgrimage that were from Brooklyn. So we had a great New York contingent with us in Greece and Turkey and Rome from Brooklyn. So hats off to everybody from the New York City area today. I've never been to New York City or the boroughs. I've always avoided it like the plague. It's just way too many people for my liking. So I've always driven around.
Says the guy who went to Rome.
Yeah, Rome. Athens is worse.
Twice. You've been to Rome twice in the last 2 years.
Just the last. I've been there probably 3 times, but Athens was worse.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Athens is insane. Yeah. It's like, I guess that would be a lot more like New York City or Chicago would be. Maybe LA. Like Athens is Houston, Texas. You got downtown, but very few people really live there. Everybody lives way out in the suburbs, right? But Athens, it's like you got 5 million people and they all live on top of each other. That's
Gaza. That's Gaza. If you've ever, I had the opportunity in '95 to go to Gaza, and
really?
It was like it was like this. I mean, when you go out to the country and come back to New York, you feel the walls. There, it felt like walls, ceiling, and floor all coming in on you like a cave. It was amazingly congested, and they drive worse than Italians. They really do. The only thing worse I've ever seen is India. That's the only place in the world that I've ever seen anything worse. But it's
Oh boy, Don Paddock he's issued a fraternal correction on Brooklyn. Don Paddock says in Brooklyn it's a gun and cement. So you don't need the shovel. You just need a cement mixer on a local construction job.
You need the shovel if you go out to the Meadowlands to bury him next to Jimmy Hoffa.
It depends. It depends which family you're aligned with.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a cultural thing. Yeah. Some are cement, some are shovels. It's just the way it is.
You're a cement New Yorker or you're a shovel New Yorker.
But all agree that if the dude shows up at your door with the hookup app, something's got to go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so bad. I can't even imagine.
That's like door to door, really? Like
you showed up here.
I know. I literally last night I was praying when I was praying before bed, and I was saying that guy is so lost. So I just really felt my heart hurt for him. Yeah, because he's in his 20s. He's in a lifestyle that is just so destructive. And I don't know if you know Anthony Sciambra.
Sure. Yeah, I've interviewed him in the past. He's a very broken person.
Yeah, and still, even though he's had a faith journey.
He struggles mightily. Yeah, God love him. Yeah, he's fighting the good fight as far as his own personal struggles go, but he's very bitter over the scandal in the church of seemingly accepting this lifestyle while he endured so much. It's really been a battle for him. Yeah. My heart breaks for him. He's very bitter, though. I was going to ask.
Everybody needs to brace themselves. We now have an official date for No Kings 2.0 protests.
Oh, no.
The first one was so popular and so successful.
Yeah, exactly.
They're choosing the perfect date for this one, the 4th of July, which is already a No Kings holiday anyway, because that's kind of what.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we should make that Sacred Heart Flag Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Sacred Heart Flag Day.
My favorite thing about this is that this is all based on the premise that we will get our political way if we inconvenience you enough into you agreeing with us.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially the logic. You just make people's lives miserable and they'll give in to you.
Yeah.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Mm-hmm.
No King's Day.
Yeah, I wish somebody would just do the NGO search to figure out who's funding this.
Yeah.
Because it's very obvious. I mean, we see it here in New York.
People looking into that.
Yeah. But I mean, like the drop off of bricks and the drop off of water bottles and all of these things that are happening.
Gas masks. Yeah.
You can't do that logistically unseen. I mean, even the old, as you would call them, neighborhood yentes, the people who are aware of what's going on would say, why is that, middle of the street? Why is that, pallet of bricks sitting there? It's just, it's too obvious, and they're too bold. It's I think the weakness of evil, that they take themselves too seriously and believe themselves to be too, immortal or impenetrable.
We should counter protest No King's Day by having Mo King's Day, because we want Mo Kings in the world.
Christ is the King.
Yeah,
Day.
yes,
amen.
And we want
exactly.
we want his representatives on earth to return.
Yeah, Corpus Christi and Christ the King Day. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if we'll get protests on Christ the King Sunday. That'll be interesting. See if there's a targeted anti-Catholic No Kings effort.
I would say good. Try it.
Yeah. I'm just interested to see if they'll think of that, or if they're focused more on just the secular stuff.
Let's see if they can face up to it.
Good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Alberto Oscar says Don King Day.
Don King Day. We should all dress up as Don King.
There we go. Yeah.
Put on
National Don King Day.
Big hair that day. That'd be great.
I think only Jake has enough hair to do that.
I still need a wig. I think.
Wow. Thanks, Edward. Right under the bus, pal. Like, that was very Brooklyn of you. Like, drive over me. That's
can we have No Queen's Day and counter signal the feminist movement? Let's do that. No
Wasn't
Queen's
there
Day.
like a?
That's not allowed.
It's not allowed.
If you don't.
Jake, didn't your generation used to have a saying about so true king or something like that? What did you?
Oh yeah, well yeah, we call we call everyone king, because every man is called to be priest, prophet, and king.
Every man's a king, apparently.
Yeah.
Viva Cristo Rey.
Man's home is his castle.
Especially in Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly.
When the guy shows up with a dating app, he's about to find out who's king and who's not. Yikes. That dude.
Even more so in Queens.
That close. He was that close. Pray for his soul. Hey, Douglas, good morning to you. There aren't any kings, just queens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There sure were a lot of them at those protests.
Candlesticks, good morning. Summer solstice. Sometimes crazy things happen on the solstice.
Yeah,
Stay
true.
Vigilant, be at peace. Yeah.
St. John the Baptist. Pray for his intercession. We need to restore devotion to St. John the Baptist. He's been so overshadowed. Not that I'm anti St. Joseph. I love St. Joseph, but he's taken St. John the Baptist's place in a lot of ways as kind of the second saint after Our Lady. And our Lord said that St. John the Baptist, no greater man was born of woman. So we need to restore devotion to St. John the Baptist up there. The last prophet, just like St. Joseph was the last patriarch.
And the first Christian martyr.
Yeah, in many ways. He's the proto martyr.
Well, I guess when I become the Holy Roman Emperor, that could be one of the things we get done. I mean, we're going to need something to do in the afternoon from that first day, because the first half of that day is going to be pure fire. When I force the Catholic Church to accede to all of my demands.
Yes, like a good emperor.
We're going to be a great emperor.
But that's the thing is we need St. John's Nativity to be a national holiday. So we can stay.
Don't tell that to Trump.
And just stay up late. I know. He's lost me. He's lost me.
Did you
Says we need fewer days off.
Because we need fewer days off.
Fewer days off. He's lost me. The emperor has lost my allegiance.
You are going to upset your base, Donald. Donnie, you're going to upset your base by telling them they have too many days off.
All right, it's all right. It's just A/B test. It's A/B testing, just like the whole giving illegal farm workers a pass thing. A week later, ICE is back to cracking down on them. It's A/B testing. Don't take his tweets literally ever.
And now he's talking about doing a land giveaway.
It's literally how he crowdsources, opinion.
As soon as the news broke that there were lines of American citizens applying for jobs at meatpacking plants and other things that we had been assured nobody wanted to work in, I knew that he was going to back off of that agriculture.
Yep. Exactly. No, this is not the last. He's done it so many times over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Bring back the Crusades, Patty. Yeah. I'd definitely bring back the Crusades. As Holy Roman Emperor, I would compel an army to come together and we'd rescue the Nigerians for sure. or maybe a few others, I can imagine.
Armenians.
I mean, the Armenians. Yeah, this is a thing. I mentioned it a few times this week. There's a great article at the American Conservative talking about the concern of Christians in Iran, rather, which are really displaced Armenians, and how they're very concerned about a regime change operation in Iran, not because they love the Ayatollah Khomeini, but because they saw what happened in Iraq. And they're like, we don't want this for us. And frankly, there are a lot of people today talking about the real agenda is not destroy the nuclear program as much as regime change. And some of the speculation that I heard from the reportage was you take out the Ayatollah and then you break the country up into smaller regional governments. And then you effectively suck away any power or influence they have in the region by doing so. But by doing that, then you leave a you leave a vacuum, which power pours a vacuum. And then this is what they had in Iraq with the rise of ISIS. But by the grace of God.
Syria or something.
Yeah.
Syria, Sarajevo, a lot of places where it's been tried, and it's just been, decades of problems, decades.
Yeah, I found it interesting that Axios, the Wall Street Journal, and other outlets are like, hey, Plan A is to destroy the nuclear facility with a bunker buster bomb. But if Plan A doesn't work, Plan B is to send an elite commando force with Mossad and on the ground and blow it up in person. Like, you want us to believe that you just gave us your two plans publicly? Like what? Like, I mean, I guess we're dumb.
I think people need to be reminded of the time that Trump used early in his first term, just brutal military force, and it shocked people. And what did he do? He had a B-52 or whatever it was fly over Afghanistan and drop literally the mother of all bombs on Al-Qaeda. Yeah. A fuel air bomb, the biggest thing that we have in our arsenal that's not nuclear. People seem to have forgotten about that thing. Yeah. And that seems to be more his style. Do something, do it brief, and make a big, bold demonstration. So whatever he's going to do is probably going to look like that, which means bunker busters are probably not off the table unless all of our bunker busters are nuclear. Because I don't think
they're not. But the issue with bunker busters is it's not so simple. The system has to work. First, you have to take down radar, and then you have to soften the target, and then on the third wave is when you put the bunker buster in, especially for this hardened site. So we're talking about 2 weeks. It would be a big activity.
It'd be a big dramatic thing he would do. Of course, if you start seeing Israel start attacking that, looking like they're softening it up for that kind of an attack, then you could deduce that that's what he's going to do. Or he might just be letting Israel do it. Because my favorite statement about U.S. foreign policy towards Israel has been something Trump said early first term, which is we give Israel a lot of money and a lot of hardware. They can take care of themselves. So that might be what his approach is. And that's not taking one side or another.
I hope so too. I don't think we should be getting involved.
The cleanup. I mean, really, the cleanup is going to be the worst part of it. It will be, like I said, decades. I mean, when I met the bishops of Iraq back at World Youth Day, the first thing they said to me, like literally took me aside and said, "America, you caused this problem." And I just thought to myself, "Oh my goodness, And as much as he was right, I was like, we don't get to choose, but I understand your concern because Iraq was about 10% Christian and almost all of it was Chaldean. There was a large Chaldean community and that's gone.
Yeah.
And same thing, Lebanon, Syria. I mean, Syria, again, is another place was 8 to 10% Christian. What's left, we don't know. Lebanon was more than 50%. It was 60% Christian. At one point more. I mean, we look at Bethlehem. Bethlehem was 95% Christian. It's less than 1% now.
These are the ramifications.
Yeah, these are the ramifications of these, war to cleanse terrorism or whatever. It always seems to be that, what gets lost in the mix is the radicals become more radical and the Christians who are the moderating forces and cohesive forces in these societies get pushed out. And you end up with this. You end up with these messes all over the world.
Yeah. That's insane. You know, we play the same politics over and over and over again. This whole regime change stuff, forever war stuff, and we just continue to support it. And we get guilted into supporting it. You know, I'll get hate mail later today about, oh, Joe, you criticize Israel. You know, it's just never ending. And it's like, guys, this isn't good. Like, we should just be honest about it. This isn't good. We don't want this. We don't want war. We don't want the death, the maiming, the killing, the constant drama and turmoil of it all. We want peace. I mean, and it's a never ending ball game. No matter who we vote for or what we do, it just never ends. And my concern for Donald Trump is who's whispering into his ear. I mean, on one hand, he's the guy who tells us we need to drain the swamp and we need to fight against the deep state. But he's like still reading from the same talking points as the deep state. I'm like, well, help me understand that. You know, what is it? How am I supposed to interpret that? Like, all of a sudden you're not on the campaign trail, and now all of a sudden you can listen to those same people and take their advice. How does that make any sense? I don't know. I don't know how that makes sense.
It's fifth level chess, right?
Maybe I'm just a dumb radio guy. I don't know anything. A female KC Royals fan from Nebraska says, well, Islam took over Bethlehem and Nazareth, but I'm not sure if Jews would let Christians live there if it were only Jews otherwise. You know, this is one of those other things. There's been a lot of pressure upon the Christians in the Holy Land. And a lot of people don't like this. When we talk about it, it doesn't fare well with the responses, but the reality is what it is. The state of Israel, the government of Israel, is putting a lot of pressure on the Christian communities in the Holy Land, especially at the holy sites. And it's not a good story. It certainly isn't a good story. You know, that's part of the reason why, where's my book? Is this it right here? Yeah, this book right here. This is a great book. The Culture, the Church, and Liberty by Spalding, by Martin John Spalding, Archbishop of Baltimore, 19th century. He gets into the difficulties of his day in the church, and how he points out, he does a survey, how he points out in comparing Protestant versus Catholic countries. And in Catholic countries, Protestants are always better treated than in Protestant countries, and Catholics were poorly treated. And I would argue the same thing if you were to compare to the Jews or to Islam. We are far more tolerant of the others than they are ever of us. But we're not allowed to say that.
That goes for the West in general. The West is far more tolerant than any other civilization, and we're paying the price for it now.
Catholicism was the foundational philosophy of most Western culture. Mm-hmm. I mean, it didn't grow until after the Catholic Church became, the dominant force in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michael says ISIS civil war in Syria was the benefit of Israel, and many in the neocon movement as well.
Tell Lindsey Graham he's got to go back in the service. He wants to call for war, then put him on the front lines.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing that I was thinking about this week. There used to be a day and an age when you were going to go to war, you were led by your king.
Yep.
Right? Your king went to battle. This was the rebuke when we are reading in 2 Samuel chapters. What chapter was it when I think was it 7 or 8 when he was lying about in the springtime at the time when the army was to go to war. David is lying about in the palace, and that's when he sees Bathsheba, right? This is mind-boggling because he was supposed to be at war. It was the rebuke against David for not or sending his army to do what he's supposed to do. King St. Louis IX went to war, led the troops from the front and not the rear. And yet today, no modern leader ever leads the charge, ever. I would say maybe we should change that. Maybe if Bibi Netanyahu wants to protect his people against the enemies of his people who will harm them, then he needs to lead the charge personally. Maybe Donald Trump does too. I don't know. Maybe leaders need to, if they want to go to war and lives are going to be lost and property is going to be damaged, and then those that are going to have to survive that are going to starve or suffer through disease, famine, and everything else, injury, well, then maybe the leaders need to lead the charge so they are They are putting in their pound of flesh just like everybody else. It seems strange to me that we no longer hold that as sort of like the norm. Like, when did we let that go?
That it happened in the War of 1812, when I think it was John Quincy Adams, I think was the president at the time, or James Madison was. One of the two. One of them tried to lead troops in battle, and they were pulled off the battlefield, and Congress quickly passed laws saying you are not allowed to do that.
Well, we need to repeal those laws then.
But senators and congressmen have left their positions to join the military. That has been done, and that's not done anymore. That's definitely not done anymore.
Should be the international standard. And maybe we'll have less wars because fewer leaders actually want to die in a battle, right? They don't want to die, but they're happy to send other men to die. And now increasingly they're happy to send women to die too. So perhaps
many of them have not even seen it. I think even they haven't even seen it. They haven't been to the places, seen the ramifications of their activities.
As much as I don't like Abraham Lincoln visited the battlefield. Yeah. He at least saw the carnage. I mean, I really don't like Abraham Lincoln, but at least he saw the carnage that he helped to inflict and the price that was being paid by hundreds of thousands of American lives, in that conflict.
And he reportedly wept the first time he visited the battlefield.
How do you not?
So
How do you not? I don't know. It's bizarre. We're going to have to wrap it up, though. I'm still going to laugh for the rest of the day over the hookup app story. I'm sorry, Edward. That was hilarious. Man, that was so funny. Thanks for hanging out with us today, though. I do appreciate it. I do appreciate everything you do over at the Aid to the Church in Need. It's an invaluable resource, so praise be to God for it.
Thank
Dr.
You.
Stine. So go ahead.
No, I said it's good to serve the people who would need it.
Amen. It is. Mm-hmm. Dr. Stine, you and I did, we have about 2 more minutes here before we have to say goodbye. But you and I have never even talked about the closing of the TLM in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa was on my list. I was thinking we should move to Tulsa. Such a great place. And then they cancel a 13-year-old TLM community.
There are parishioners at that parish who are very angry at the blogger who wrote that and published it, saying that they haven't heard anything, but their pastor got reassigned. So I don't know, but the traditional mass is not being offered there anymore.
Exactly.
This has been, and the person who blew the whistle on this has been trying to get people's attention about this since spring, since like April.
I just heard about it the other day.
Yeah.
So, and everybody pushes back. But, Joe, they still have the FSSP. They can go there. I know. I go to an FSSP parish, and I love it. It's great. And you're right. They can. But are you missing the point that this is like incredibly rude and crazy? Like, why are we doing this to a community that's had it for 13 years? All of a sudden, like, as if it doesn't matter, as if it's no big deal. Like, can't you people just get over it? Like, it seems...
That FSSP parish offers 3 masses on Sundays and can hold maybe 200 people in the pews. So let's not try to crush a parish with too many people. Okay,
but we're seeing that trend. That's the same thing that happened in Tyler, Texas. They did away with the Cathedral TLM community, which holds a lot more people, and now everybody's having to go to the FSSP, which can again only hold 200 people, and now it's packed to the brim. So is the game here really, maybe they'll get annoyed by it and they'll just stop and they'll just start going to the Novus Ordo. Like, why are we playing politics with this?
The entire purpose of Traditionis Custodes, according to the responses ad dubia and the letter that went with Traditionis Custodes to the bishops, was to get all those pesky trads to be educated on how wonderful the new mass is and how we should all go back to the new mass eventually. That means the entire purpose of Traditionis Custodes was to eradicate the TLM eventually. It's why I kind of always laughed a little bit when the FSSP made a big deal about the little handwritten on a napkin letter they got from Pope Francis promising them they'd be able to say their mass forever. It's never appeared in the formal records that the Vatican keeps of papal writings. So just
why are you trying to crush our hope, Dr. Stine? Why are you taking the last bit of hope we have away from us?
That's what I do.
Napkins. Great things have happened on napkins. Like the plan for the Novus Ordo, for instance. with Bugnini.
Yeah, which Eucharistic prayer was written on a napkin? Was that prayer too?
It was two.
The quick one everybody did.
Yeah. By the guy who prevented Bonini from removing the Sanctus from the Mass, by the way.
Ugh. All right. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us today. We'll see you guys on Monday. We're going to talk about Pakistan and Christians there. God love you.